Hello, this is our first video of 2018. Can you believe it? All right, this is 9-2 fractions in simplest form. So remember, go ahead and at the top of your paper or your spiral, whatever you're working in, just write 9-2 and write the title, fractions in simplest form. Once you are done with that, you can unpause the video and go on. So over here is a little chart, and remember when you create a fraction, you always put the line in the middle when you're making your fraction, and you need to put your part on top and your whole on the bottom. So I would definitely write this down in your journal, and I would also write down this little chart. So my chart shows how many different squares. Well, it's 5 squares by 5 squares, so 5 times 5 is 25, or we could just count and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and get all the way down here to 25. So our whole is 25. Well, what's our part? So that's asking us, what do we have shaded? Well, let's count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if I asked you to write a fraction for this graph, it would be 10/25. But today you're learning about simplest form. So we have to say, well, 10/25 is not simplest form because it's not the littlest it can get. So let's figure out how to get to simplest form. So some of you might know the quick way that 5 can go into both of these, but I'm going to show you a little bit of a longer way first for those of you who might not be familiar with this as much. So the first thing we need to do is make kind of like a factor tree. Most of you were taught this in 3rd or 4th grade. So we need to say what two numbers times together can make 10. Well, 5 and 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Then we need to ask ourselves what two numbers times together equal 25. 5 times 5. Okay, now we have to ask ourselves, is there any two numbers that we can times together to make 5 besides 5 and it's 5 and 1? Because we don't need to write that. There's nothing. So 5 is the littlest as it can get. 2 is the littlest as it can get because we can't times anything together but 2 and 1 to get 2. So we know right now all of these are in the littlest form to create our big number. So I want you to find the similarity. What's the same on the bottom over here and on the bottom over here? Well, is there a 2 over on this side? No, there's no 2, so we cross that out. Is there a 5 over here? Yes, there's a match. So what that's telling us to do is to take that 5 and divide both the top and the bottom. So 10 divided by 5 equals 10 divided by 5 equals 2, and 25 divided by 5 equals 5. Now, there is nothing that can go into 2 and 5 that are the same. We cannot make this any smaller. So our simplest form of 10/25 would be 2/5. So let's try some more. So let's find the simplest form of 16/32. So remember, we can make our factor trees. Also a trick to even numbers, because both of these numbers are even. We know that 2 will go into both of those. But if we divide it by 2, then it's going to give us 16 divided by 2 is 8, and 32 divided by 2 is 16. Well, we're going to have to keep dividing by 2, and that can take a really long time. So it's best to do the factor trees when they're kind of bigger numbers. So our factor tree for 16, we have to ask ourselves, what two numbers times together equals 16? 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Now, what two numbers can be multiplied together to get 4? 2 and 2. And this 4, 2 and 2. And then we stop, because simplest form means only the number that we have times 1 is the only thing that can go into this last number. So this is simplest form. 32, we know 8 times 4 is 32. We know 4 times 2 is 8. 2 can't be broken up anymore, but this 4 can, and we go 2 and 2. and then up here 2 and 2. So what common thing, so you always look at the bottom rows. What common thing do you see? Well, it's 2, but we want to go up and see if there's anything else that's similar, that's a higher number. So what else do you see that's similar, that is a higher number, that are common in 16 and 32? 4, because there's a 4 and there's a 4, or you could even use this 4. So we know that we're going to be dividing by 4. All right, so I want you to do this math in your spiral, and I'm going to make it a quiz question on here. So you tell me what you get when you do 16 divided by 4 and 32 divided by 4. Please type that in your answer now. You should get 4/8. Well, is 4/8 simplest form? Can 2 still go into both of those? Yes. Well, let's see what else can. So we start with 4/8, and we can do our little factor tree if that helps. We know 2 times 2 is 4, and we know 4 times 2 is 8, and we know 2 times 2 is 4. So we have our factor tree. We need to find out what is similar. It cannot be 4 this time because look, there's a 4 over here, but there's no 4 over here, and we can't use our top number. That will not work. So we just have to use what is common, which is 2. So now we have 4 divided by 2 is 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Can we break it up even more? Yes, and we know we would just divide it by 2. Or some of you might know that this is a half, but 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we have 1/2, and we can't get any smaller than that because none of the same numbers can go into 1 as they can 2. All right, so this will be your last one, and I want you to kind of work it out on your own. This is 18 divided by 21, or 18 21ths, and 21st, and we want to get this into simplest form. So remember, first you want to make that tree, and then you want to break it apart, and you have to ask yourself, what 2 numbers that can I times together to get 18? Over here, you have to ask yourself, what 2 numbers can I times together to get to 21? And then keep breaking it down. So I want you to give this your best shot. I will put the answer in, after you put your answer in, you'll be able to see the correct answer. And then we might try one more that you do all on your own. So go ahead and try to solve this. This one I'll guide you a little bit through, but the next one's completely on your own. So 18, we have to ask ourselves, what 2 numbers can we times together to get 18? Well, it could be a variety of numbers. We could do 9 times 2, because 9 times 2 is 18, or we could do 6 and 3. So I would do the 9 and 2 because you're using a bigger number over here than we would be if we used 6 and 3. 9's just bigger. So then we have to break down the 9 because we can't break down the 2 anymore because 2 only goes into 1 in itself. What 2 numbers times each other equal 9? 3 times 3. And 3 are the smallest. Over here, we can do what 2 numbers together times each other equal 21? 7 and 3. Well, can 7 go into anything but 7 and 1? No. So 7 is your simplest form, or the lowest number that you can get. So what common number do we see in the trees that we have here? 3. That is our common number. So we know we're going to do 3 divided by the top and 3 divided by the bottom. It has to be equal. So we have to ask ourselves, what's 18 divided by 3? We get 6. Then we have to ask ourselves, what's 21 divided by 3? 7. Now, 6 can be broken up more, but can 7? No. So if one number cannot be broken up anymore, you are at the simplest form. So that should be your answer. I want you to try this next one all on your own. All right, so I want you to put 22 44ths into simplest form. I made your trees over here that you can make on your notebook paper, and I want you to go ahead and get started on solving this. I will have you put your answer into the quiz question, and then you are all done for today. So make sure You're asking yourself what times what equals 22, what times what equals 44. See if you can keep breaking it down, find what's common, and start your division. And I will see you later.